Which position will fall during tonight's draft this evening? How is the latest news around the NFL affecting ADP? And which one of these 12 drafters might win the $1 million grand prize in the FFPC Big Gorilla this year? We've got a great show for you tonight. Live coverage of the FFPC Big Gorilla draft. 12 players duking it out to try to win $1 million. Ferrell Elliott is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
Can't stand the pressure. I've seen greater men than need a lesson.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott.
Solace in the scripture. Are we not all our father's sons? I became a man. Nobody ever told me what a man was.
Thank you, Rob. Greetings and salutations, all you Balkaholics and Ferrelliacs. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com. I am your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman. My co-host is the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, Mr. Ferrell Elliott. Coming up on tonight's show, we got live coverage for you. It's the FFPC Big Gorilla. 12 players are duking it out to try to win $1 million in the FFPC Big Gorilla competition this year. Listen, if you want to join in, you definitely can compete against not these 12 drafters tonight. You can definitely compete in the Big Gorilla. We have $350 entry fee for this contest. You get $50 discount on every third team you sign up for. Draft's already going with live and slow. We have 60-second, 2-hour, and 6-hour clocks. The 7 Bananas promo is still live, so check that out. We've already given away 2 main event and I think 18 free best ball teams because of that promo. You could definitely check that out. Join the FFPC main event as well. It's our flagship event, $1 million grand prize, $6 million plus prize pool, slow drafts, and live drafts going on right now. FFPC best ball and Superflex best ball tournaments going on as well. MyFFPC.com is where to go for that $300,000, $100,000 grand prizes respectively on that. And of course, Dynasty Startup still going strong. MyFFPC.com. You want to play for $100 all the way up to $5,000. We've had 2,000 plus leagues in 15 years. None have ever folded. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live. Without further ado, I'll bring in my good buddy Ferrell Elliott here tonight. Ferrell, good Monday evening to you. So glad. I feel like we just did this. We ended last week, and now we're starting off this week for the viewers.
Balky, it's always a desert of desolation when I'm not talking to you. The quicker I can get there, the happier I am.
All right,
hey, you got a guy, Kevin Harris, checking in. He says, hello, Kevin from Louisville. What do you think about that, Balky?
Oh, we got to get him to Kentucky. Well, he's already in there. We got to get him to the main event and the live events for sure. I'm writing down Desert of Desolation?
Yes, Desert of Desolation.
It's going to be one of my KFFSC team names.
Right, very good.
As well.
That'll be a good one.
Yeah, and Henry Muda already pointing out Pros vs. Joe is about 4 to 5 weeks away. You indeed are correct, Henry.
Henry is a Joe, though, right?
Henry is not a Joe this year. He has been a Joe in the past.
You know, these guys keep switching allegiances and teams with me. I don't know how we can get an identification. That's your permanent identification going on there, Henry. You'll always be a Joe in my heart.
Yes, and he is. He's always, and he's one of the great players.
See, look at there. See what he said?
I am always a Joe. That's
there.
What
You damn straight.
Henry Muto, I am always a Joe.
I spoke to one of my favorite Joes just before we went on air from Los Angeles, Derek Greer.
Oh yeah,
this conversation with Derek. I don't know why I can't seem to get comfortable tonight. I'm bringing in. I'm going to do some work on my background, Balky.
Yeah,
I got a giant. Oversized and long, beautiful rendition of the King Kong poster. So I'm going to bring that in every time we talk about the Big Gorilla, and we'll do a little bit of decor back.
Well, that's going to look good, Ferrell. That's great for branding.
You want to push the Big Gorilla.
We do, but not too hard because then you anger the Big Gorilla, and then you don't get the $1 million.
The Big Gorilla is always happy when players are coming.
You got to nudge him, and 12 players are nudging him tonight. We got them all in the draft room right now. I'm going to take you through the first round. It's almost complete. Tom Turney, that is Tom Chiefs 11. He is drafting from the 1 spot. He takes Bijan Robinson tonight. And then Slappy seconds, James Russell goes with Jahmyr Gibbs. Biff Tannen, that's our good buddy Cullen Hoffman, the pride of Appleton, Wisconsin. Well, one of the prides of Appleton, Wisconsin.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
There are a lot of them. He is in the 3 spot tonight. He takes Jamar Chase. Hail Yeah is a Joe from last year, Sean Green, along with Michael Serpico and April Balaskita. They are running Hail Yeah, and they probably said Hail Yeah when they got Brock Bowers at the 104 tonight. Ali Youssefel is going to be drafting 5th. He takes Justin Jefferson. That's AY22. CeeDee Lamb goes to the football nerd, a.k.a. Robert Morelli. Chris M. goes with Saquon Barkley at the 107. We got the Funky Freshies, former guest, not only this show, but the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown. Jared Hines takes Malik Neighbors at the 108. JS9 is Jason Schoen's team. He goes with Ashton Genty, the rookie running back, as the 4th running back taken in the first round. Puka Nacua is the first-round pick of Penix Envy. That's Thomas O'Brien's team here at the 110. Commitment to Excellence then drafts Trey McBride. That is owned by Kevin Harris, Louisville's own, the pride of Louisville, Ferrell. And then Christian McCaffrey. The 85 Bears take him. That is the Georgia Express, we'll just call him. The Georgia Express takes the Christian McCaffrey there at team with pick 12 tonight. Okay, lot to get through here, Ferrell. Right off the bat, I mean, I guess I don't have a problem with Bijan Robinson at the 101. I think most of the time we do see Jamar Chase there. But, man, if I think in the way things are going right now, and I don't know how you feel about this, I think 1A is still going to be Chase as we get closer and closer to Louisville and Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
But 1B is Bijan Robinson. I'm actually surprised I have not seen Robinson go at the 101 more. Tonight, we see it happen, and I like it.
I like it, too. And I think our number 2 drafter has the asterisk, Balky. What does the asterisk mean? Mr. James Russell has an asterisk.
Yeah, the asterisk either means he timed out or he put himself on auto, or he lined up a queue and just had the auto one.
I think he lined up a queue. He assumed that Chase would be first.
And he liked Gibbs better than Robinson. That's entirely possible. Yeah.
That makes a little more sense, but okay. Interesting start. And then the team with 3 owners here. There's a slam dunk on Bowers.
Yeah, so Bowers at 104. Henry's already pointing out Chase at 3, Barkley at 7. This draft already off the hook. It really is. I mean, and that's what's great about these drafts, because for anybody who's just tuning in for the first time in the FFPC, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, a tight end, 2 flexes, kicker, and defense. You can build your teams a lot of different ways here. And Bowers goes at the 104 to your point, Ferrell. Saquon Barkley falls to the 107. I got to bring up the mojo on Saquon Barkley. And by the way, anytime we reference ADP on this show, it is always thanks be to Darren Armani, fantasymojo.com. If you have a FFPC teams, if you're drafting in the FFPC, highly recommend you get a subscription to Fantasy Mojo. The stuff that he does, he won't say the stuff in season is all that great. I think the waiver wire stuff he does in season is awesome. And obviously the ADPs, the stack finder, looking at all the different draft boards, you can do that at fantasymojo.com.
I think that we need to come up with something like ADP equals DAP or something like that, a catchphrase to explain how Armani is just the guy.
Well, he is, and we got to get our marketing people on that for sure. Where's Steven Yergalos? So we'll get him on that.
Yes.
So Barkley normally goes at the 105, falls a couple spots to 107 tonight. Nothing huge there, but I think anybody who is looking at what Barkley did last year would be like, oh my God, I got to get this guy as soon as possible. And then you get him at the 107. It's very exciting. Ferrell, I have done, I don't want to say back-to-back KFFSC run to daylights, but very close. Yes. I did a live one last night. I did a slow one that started last week. I had the 3 pick in both of them. In one of them, I took Justin Jefferson after Robinson and Chase went with the first 2 picks with both of them. I took Barkley in one of them. I took Justin Jefferson in the other one. And I am a little nervous about Barkley this year. I know he was awesome last year, but the amount of carries and touches that he had last year at his age, I feel like I'm fine with having some Barkley, but man, I don't want to go all in with him this year. How do you feel about Barkley in 2025?
You should go all in with Barkley as much as you can. And you should go all in with Henry. Our team number 9, when I saw Jason pick Judy, I said, or Genty rather, I said, damn, I probably would have taken Derrick Henry there. Mm-hmm. And then in the second round, magic happens for him. And this, so you have to play 12 gorillas statistically to get the number 1 spot. And it's about 90% going to Jamar Chase.
Hold on, Ferrell. I'm going to stop you right there because we get people complaining a lot. If I'm understanding you correctly, and maybe I'm not, we get a lot of people complaining all the time that because all the picks are randomized. So it doesn't necessarily mean over time you'll eventually get the 1 pick or you'll eventually get the 12 pick. It's all random. So, you could get 4 number 3 picks.
You could.
Yeah.
But my modest understanding of statistics means
Right.
that when it's 1 through 12, that you statistically you'll have to play in 12 gorillas to get 1-1.
But
statistically, not randomized.
Here's the best way to do it. Every time you play a big gorilla or any league at the FFPC, you have a 1 in 12 shot of getting that number 1 pick.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what I'm saying is, when this player gets 3, a guy like Cullen gets 3, with his track record of winning, he all of a sudden has a very modest but real advantage to have a Jamar Chase at 3.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm saying. Against the field.
I'll say this too. Henry Muda pointing this out. Jahmyr Gibbs. I trust Henry on stuff like this for sure.
Mm-hmm.
He says that Gibbs has actually outscored Robinson in PPR both years that they've been in the league. That's interesting
because he plays for a real team with a real offense and an understanding of what's going on.
Right. James
also plays on a carpet inside. Both of them play on carpets.
We were wondering about that auto pick at the 2 spot. James Russell says it means the asterisk means he was showering. So there you go. That's why he got
Ben Russell is the cleanest man in this draft, and that's what I really love about Ben Russell. He's coming in clean. And
he said he did want Gibbs. That was the correct pick.
Okay, good man.
So there you go. And that's fine too. I think it's fine. I brought this up on the show too. Theo Greminger said from Fantasy Points, and I apologize if I'm beating this into the ground, but he's been saying, and he hasn't said it in a couple of months, but he said back in January, February, wouldn't be surprised if Gibbs went 101 in a few big gorillas and FFPC main events this year. So the 102 for Gibbs, I think is absolutely fine. Jared Hines also pointing out that the 201 with Bucky Irving tonight, that's the earliest he's seen him go so far.
Mm-hmm.
Bucky Irving, according to Mojo, over the last 3 days, this is about 24 big gorilla drafts, the earliest he went is 203. So this indeed is the earliest tonight. The 85 Bears taking McCaffrey and Irving to start off tonight. Okay. Let's see here. Yeah, let's go to hold on. Kevin Harris chiming in right now. Ferrell, to refresh our memory, he's the one that had the 2 co-owners with him for a couple of years. At Caesars.
Kevin took last year off. They were doing some traveling. It's a great trio. I love the guys. We just got to get Kevin back in the building.
Bucky Irving, as we said, went at the 201 tonight. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Brian Thomas off the board at 202, 203. Henry and Achane. Henry going, how about this for both ends of the spectrum here for Schoen? I think that was Schoen, right? Jason Schoen takes the rookie and Genty and the ageless Derrick Henry to start off his draft. Genty and Henry, that's an interesting start. I mentioned Achane. Nico Collins ends up going to Chris M. You have Josh Jacobs going with CeeDee Lamb to Morelli here. And then 3 straight receivers. We got Drake London going to Ali Yusefel. Then A.J. Brown to Green, Serpico, and Balaskida. And Balaskida, excuse me. Ladd McConkey, George Kittle, and Chase Brown end the round here tonight. I don't think anything is standing out to me in the second round. I think it's kind of cool how you do, the young buck in Genty and then the old dog in Derrick Henry. And I also look at Ali Yusefel's team here, Ferrell, from the 5 spot. How many targets is that right there with Jefferson and London this year? He might lead. I mean, those guys could conceivably be top 2 in targets. I think Lamb will get more targets than Jefferson, but still Jefferson and London, that pairing right there is going to be fun. What do you make of Ladd McConkey at the 210? Last year, I don't think that they had a really good offensive line. I don't know if we're going to see a repeat performance of McConkey, what we saw last year, and he was so good at the end of the season. They've added Trey Harris. They've added Najee Harris. They've added Omari and Hampton. I just feel like that backfield is it's in such a better place this year. Then I know a rising tide raises all ships, right? Mm-hmm. But I think that there is going to be stuff taken away from McConkey on offense where he might be as efficient as he was last year, but he might not see as many targets. Is my logic flawed on that?
Yes, you're overthinking it. He's going to be brilliant. He's going to improve on last year, and that is a wonderful pick by Cullen. Yeah, this is one of my favorite players in the league. What is not to like? And how late do you have those stats from Darren?
Absolutely.
How late has McConkey gone in a draft? What's that range?
So again, over the last 3 days, he's gone as late as the 212. So this is pretty good value on him. He has an ADP of the 208. Going off the board as wide receiver 10, he's wide receiver 11 tonight. So Cullen knows what he's doing. I'll just say this. I don't believe that McConkey is going to be a bust this year. No. I just worry that people are draft. There's a certain opportunity cost that comes with drafting McConkey, and I don't know if he's going to come through with late second round ADP. He very well could. We saw the talent on the field last year. He has a competent quarterback. My concern is the improved running back room, and maybe that'll make him better or even more efficient. I don't know, but it's just something I bring up. Chase Brown.
I like down and distance plays for McConkey with the kind of routes he runs. So yeah, I think better.
Chase Brown was the final pick of the second round tonight. That is Tom's Chiefs taking him right there, owned by Tom Turney. Bijan Robinson and Chase Brown to start off. Ferrell, Chase Brown avoided bullets or dodged bullets in the NFL draft where they did not take a day one or day two running back to complement him. Certainly Zach Moss is still there. I don't know the health with Moss, and I think it was a neck injury he was dealing with. It's certainly scary. Taj Brooks ends up going to the Bengals on day 3, and I do like Brooks, but he is a day 3 running back. You think about how efficient Brown was last year. I don't know if he lives up to that, but man, I think about that Bengals defense, and it's not all that great. And you got Burrow and Higgins and Chase and all these. I mean, that offense is going to have to score 30-some points a game to win games this year again. And Chase Brown seems to be the only significant player that they have in that backfield from a fantasy sense. Are you on board with Chase Brown at the end of the second round this year? How likely is it that he is going to come through and at least come close to what he did in 2024, doing it again this season?
Well, he had to take a running back receiver. He had to go, had to split the two positions here as he drafted at the turn. And I would not want to wait on that position. Chase Brown here, it's a long time before he drafts again. So I like that. And then I like what he did at receiver to pair up with that. Your spot-on analysis of the Cincinnati Bengals is perfect. You said 30 points a game. Even if they did score 30, they would lose at least 5 games last year because the defense gave up more than 35 in 5 games. So you're right. Chase Brown, I don't have a number, but I think he is an improving pass catcher. I think he'll catch a lot of balls too. He's a fantasy producer for a very, very strange football team right now.
Yeah,
very talented and fantasy. They deliver in fantasy, but it's a weird team in a weird division it's just weird.
I don't know if you have any insight into this, and if you don't, that's fine. But I know Trey Hendrickson wanted a new deal, and he has not gotten one yet.
No.
And then the Bengals went out and utilized their first-round pick on, I think it is Shamar Stewart. Is that am I getting the name right? Shamar
he doesn't
Stewart.
have a deal either.
Yeah, and he left minicamp, right? Just
right.
Which I thought was interesting. And now Hendrickson and the Bengals are negotiating again, or at the table negotiating a new deal. What do you think is going to happen here with Hendrickson and Shamar Stewart? Are they going to play for the Bengals this year? I guess
the Bengals have turned back the clock with language. It's all about language in a contract. The collective bargaining agreement negotiates a standard contract, but agents on behalf of the team negotiate the individual language. And there are some things that have not been in Cincinnati Bengal contracts that other teams have utilized, which we try to steer clear of in the agent community. Consequently, the Bengals are trying to put that kind of language. They're running against the tide, trying to put that kind of language in the contracts, and that's why the first round draft pick left. Now, Hendrickson, to me, is the most underrated player that we've seen in the NFL for years. And if we drafted individual defensive players, he would be at the top of the list. And it blows my mind. I kind of would love to see him play somewhere else because I would like to have a fantasy defense with him playing on it. And at Cincinnati, especially with rules like we have in Kentucky, at Cincinnati, you can't afford to start that team because they give up so many points. But Hendrickson is just a fantastic player. So I don't know. I'm going to try to get these deals done, and I don't know why it's taken so long. You hope for an intersection of business and football somewhere along the way, but it seems to always get a little frustrated and a little bit misdirected in Cincinnati. So we'll have to see.
There is a huge sentiment in Northeast Wisconsin, Ferrell, of wanting the Packers to find a way to get Trey Hendrickson.
Well, they should, and so should 30 other teams.
31.
Well, he's not going to go back to the Saints, so let's say 29 other teams.
What do you make of Breece Hall here at the 305 tonight? That's Ali Yusufel's first running back that he takes, pairs it with Jefferson in London. Breece Hall is a player that started off high, then he slipped, and I think he's kind of making a little bit of a comeback now. On average, 307, so not all that different from ADP tonight, Ferrell. I guess I recognize the talent. I don't know why, and I know it's a new coaching staff. I was just really surprised at how much Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis, who, by the way, has gotten the attention of the new coaching staff, and they've been talking up Isaiah Davis this offseason as well. I'm still a little bit nervous of a nonsensical sort of running back by committee there, where Hall should be the guy, but I just feel like they're going to use Allen and Davis significantly as well. Is that how you see that situation?
I don't know, and I will defer to your assessment of it. I thought always early on that Breece Hall was his draft stock was inflated due to what was going on with the team. I remained hopeful, but I never drafted him because he was. Now I'm all for him, and I think he might be going a little later. He is. We're going to have to take a wait and see approach. I cannot imagine having Breece Hall on my roster and not putting the ball in his hand.
Yeah, exactly.
But stranger things have happened.
The pick at 307 tonight, that's Chris M. He goes Nico Collins at 206. Doubles up with Tyreek Hill, wide receiver at the 307. Right, I mean, just right at his ADP. This is a player that we saw, and we talked about it on the show quite a bit, where the emphasis got to be, let's keep Tua Tagovailoa upright in the pocket, and we're going to get the ball to Jonnu Smith and Devon Achane fast. Then we hear the beat reports. I was talking with Joe Dolan from Fantasy Points about this on Insider Access last Thursday. We hear the beat reporters saying that they want to get Tagovailoa the ball out of his hands even quicker this year. And he was already the fastest in the NFL last year. To me, this doesn't bode well for Tyreek Hill. It doesn't bode well for Jalen Waddle as well. That Miami offense, I mean, this could be the last year of Mike McDaniel, and they might do a change over there. It just doesn't seem to be working at this point. But Tyreek Hill, this is as late as he's gone in years. 307 for him. I've already taken the bait and bit that hook in KFFSC. Whether that was a good thing or not, I don't know. But I got Tyreek Hill as my third receiver in a league where I started off with 3 straight receivers. I remain cautiously optimistic, but also recognizing he's not a young man anymore either. Where do you fall in on Tyreek Hill?
I would probably take that player there too. And this will be the interesting team to watch throughout the draft because, maybe he's trying to win this whole thing, and he may be thinking beyond this 12-team division. There might be surer things that come after him. A more conservative man might have taken T. Higgins. I love this team. And it's hard to root against a Tyreek Hill and to bet against a Tyreek Hill. And even if Tyreek Hill is a lesser player, he's still, now you walk around and say Tyreek Hill's my number 2 receiver. And he's got a running back that is that gets 20 to 30% more action than any other running back in the league. I like where he's going with this team.
Alvin Kamara has an ADP of the 408. He goes all the way up to the 311, and far be it for me to criticize that pick for being an overdraft because that is Kevin Harris's commitment to excellence team. And if he's committed to excellence, he obviously believes Kamara is going to be excellent this year. I have Kamara on a couple of teams, Ferrell, but I haven't really gone all in. Not that I would go all in with Kamara, but I haven't gone hog wild with Kamara. Concerned about that offense. with New Orleans and Tyler Shook, new head coach, and Kellen Moore, are they still going to be able to keep some fantasy relevant pieces down there? And I guess Kamara is the guy I'd be most concerned about. Is this a type of guy that could actually flourish with Shook dumping the ball off to him? How do you feel about Kamara?
Yes, Kamara can do anything as long as he's healthy and they put the ball into his hands, and they will have to do it with this quarterback. Now, this is a rookie quarterback. It's going to be a learning curve, but he does make all the throws. It's going to get better later in the year, but they will have to lean on Kamara to start this year. I very, very much like it. I like what Harris is doing here. These are some of the I want to talk about his fourth round pick. When you review the fourth round, I want to come back to this because I very much like the team that he's putting together here. And it's this is an example of why I like the right side of the board in FFPC play this year more than I like the early picks. So I'll be rooting when my numbers come up that I'll get some late picks.
Harris chiming in with us that they think Kamara is going to be the bulk of the Saints offense, and Kellen Moore is a plus head coach, former offensive coordinator. I believe that, is a plus head coach as he's a former offensive coordinator. I think I'm reading that right. And then John Terry presenting the rebuttal here, Ferrell. Saints offense will stink. And
John wants to talk NFL when we're talking fantasy, and John wants to talk fantasy when we're talking NFL. And that's why I love him. He's a great contrarian. It doesn't matter if it stinks. Kamara could still have 1,200 yards rushing and 600, 700 yards catching and 60 catches and multiple touchdowns. The offense is going to stink because it's going to have a rookie quarterback running. But, what you might say that there's a lot of talk every year about the Jacksonville Jaguars. Where's Thomas going in this draft?
Brian Thomas went tonight at the 203.
Okay, Brian Thomas goes at the 203. Well, I'll tell you what, the Jacksonville Jags offense stinks. The last, but
you're more bullish on the Jags offense this year than the Saints offense this year, right?
Well, I'm bullish on the quarterback because I think he can't get any worse because he has been better. The quarterback's been in trouble for the last 15 games. I think he's won about, maybe won about 4 or 5 of them. He's thrown very few touchdowns. Stretch it out to 20 games, you might get 15 touchdowns. So let's don't just look at the quarterback position because you might take the same position, same situation in evaluating your Jacksonville Jags.
John Terry also chiming in on YouTube. An offense that will not stink is Buffalo's this year. He says Josh Allen value tonight, 408 for Josh Allen tonight. He goes, who ended up taking him? That was, Ali Yusefel ends up taking Josh Allen there. His ADP, according to Mojo, is 309. And Ali gets, well, I mean, quite frankly, I said at the top of the show, what position are we going to see fall tonight? Clearly, it's the quarterbacks. Jaden Daniels, the first quarterback off the board to Penix Envy. Then you have Lamar Jackson going to Chris M here. And then Josh Allen, the third quarterback off the board. Jalen Hurts is now gone in the 5th round. So good value on Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. Ferrell, I think the receivers is the one that gets pushed up. And I've been dealing with this in Kentucky over the last few weeks. Like, I see all this yellow, and I know in Kentucky you got to start 3 receivers. So I know they're going to be pushed up. But at the same time, you have to be able to roll with the punches here. And I think the teams are rolling with the punches. Maybe some of these quarterbacks slipped a little where maybe some of them had, these quarterbacks maybe going to them at the end of the second, maybe the middle of the third, and then they couldn't do it because all these receivers are going off the board here too. And quite frankly, the running backs as well get pushed up a little bit tonight. But I think that's one of the things, especially I'm drafting a lot in Kentucky, more than I've done before. And one of the things I'm learning this year is how important it is to understand not only what every draft is different. I get that. But understand not only where players normally go, but then where the positions are being pushed up or falling. Because you have to roll with those punches in order to get really good value. I have a draft going in Kentucky right now where I feel like I drafted receivers where I should have drafted a running back, and I drafted running backs where I should have drafted receivers. And I'm still cobbling together a good team. I just don't know if I'm getting the proper value. But that's one of those things. You've been playing fantasy football for forever too. That's part of the art of it rather than the science of it.
Exactly, and I love my John Terry. He comes in and he puts on his Captain Obvious, and he says Allen's a value. All these quarterbacks are a value with where they're going. I think when it comes down, who do you prefer, Balky, Jackson or Allen? So probably you can't decide. So you might go 50-50 if you play enough teams and you're in that situation. Our drafter tonight. Let's see. Well, we can further evaluate the quarterbacks, but I really love what some of these teams are doing. I feel that the running back position has depth this year. It has a lot of guys that must step up their game to stay in the league and be successful. Pollard must step up his game. Williams at Dallas must step up his game. Whatever you think it's going to look like with the Chargers, those guys must step up their game. Najee Harris must be the force that everybody expects him to be. So when you get into the later rounds, you can draft running backs whose career depends on them having a very, very big year. So that's why I might lean at this time of year a little heavier wide receiver.
Right. And it makes sense. I mean, that your logic is not flawed. I want to bring on our first guest of the evening.
We have a guest?
We have a guest. Yeah. We'll see how many pop on tonight, but I wanted to give the opportunity for some of the drafters to come on and chat about their draft with us. This guy has been on this show before. He's been on the road of his high stakes lowdown multiple times as well. At @ship_chaser on X is where you can follow him, and a guy that's no stranger to winning league titles. He's drafting out of the 8th spot tonight. We welcome him in, the Funky Freshies owner, Mr. Jared Hines. Jared, good evening, man. How are you?
Hey, good. Bucky, how you doing there?
We're doing excellent. We're excited to be covering your draft tonight. You ended up drawing the 8th spot. You're coming up on your pick here, but 5 rounds in, how well do you feel about your squad with Neighbors, Achane, Smith and Jigba, Henderson, and Caleb Johnson?
I feel pretty good about it so far. I like the running backs here.
There's a lot of youth on your team too. You're looking at two rookie running backs. You got a couple of third-year players, a second-year player in Neighbors, and I always say that, Jared, it's a young man's game, and when in doubt, I usually go with the young guys rather than the grizzled vets.
Yeah, that's probably a bit of a bias, somewhat because of the dynasty background, but when it comes to the running back position in particular, but also like second and third year wide receivers. I mean, that's sort of an infamous, breakout category to target. Neighbors is a second year wide receiver, but I mean, he's already broken out. I think JSN is going to get 1,000 targets in Seattle now that Metcalf is out of there and Lockett is gone. I'm just about on deck here. But, the running back landscape, you guys were just talking about that. Let's see, I'm on the clock. There went Burrow.
Yeah, so right now, well, I'll let you think about this. We're talking about with Jared Hines here. He's team 8. He's on the clock right now. He went Neighbors, Achane to start, Smith and Jigba, Henderson, and Johnson. So he's got 3 running backs. He's got 2 receivers. Joe Burrow was the previous pick by beg your pardon, Jason Schoen. Sorry. I don't know. I'm stumbling over my names tonight. And the pick is in for Jared Hines. It's the 28th receiver off the board. He joins Neighbors and Smith and Jigba on your team. Why was the pick, Jared? Jamison Williams.
Well, so far I have him on 100% of my Big Gorillas, and I don't see that necessarily changing. No, I mean, I know better than to be that heavy on any one player. You know what I mean? It's just like kind of a no-brainer there. I can't say no to that.
Just cannot say no.
Yeah.
What is it about Williams this year? And obviously, you got him at kind of a deal tonight. He normally goes at 5'10". You get him at 6'05". So he's normally wide receiver 27. You get him as the 20th. What is it about Williams this year that has you really peaked that this guy could potentially be a league winner?
Well, sure. Obviously, that Detroit offense has, just tons of firepower. We know they have a new offensive coordinator, so that's a pretty big question mark. But as far as getting value on him tonight relative to what he's been going at, he's already been going too late to begin with. So even if you reached for him a little bit, you're probably still getting value, to be honest. I mean, I just think he showed last year how big of a part of that offense he's going to command, and he's going to continue to command it. It's pretty hard to bet against a guy like Amon-Ra or even Laporta bouncing back. So there's going to be some variability from week to week. But there's another aspect to this, which is something I always think about in these big gorilla type drafts or the main events, and that's to look beyond. Okay, we're trying to win the $1 million prize, and so you have to have a unique combination of players. You have to figure out whatever that lucky combination is in those last 3 weeks. And Jameson Williams is one of those guys that's in a position where he could go off for 40 points on any one given week. And so I'm like, well, I'd rather have him in my team than not.
Yeah, you better get him before someone stacks him with more of the Detroits. You don't want to let him slide down. You are so hot for Williams that you have the fan on high and it is oscillating. I love it. I love what you're doing there, brother. I mean, Whiskey Bill is always a great pick. Are you coming live this year to Paris to draft at Paris, Las Vegas in the FFPC?
No, it doesn't look like it. I got to do that last year, though. That was really a blast. That was the first time I got to do that, and really looking forward to doing that again. But
you have the rest of the summer to change your mind, and I must point out to you that that one of the great aspects of that hotel is they have air conditioning, and we need you out. We need you out there. So come on and join.
Jared, I want to go to a question from YouTube for you tonight, and it's about Trevion Henderson. John Terry wants to know why you're so optimistic on him. And when I looked at that, I'm like, well, I like Henderson quite a bit too. His ADP in the Big Gorilla normally is at 506. I guess it's maybe a 50-50 shot if you wait for him to try to come back to you in the 5th round. You decided, nah, forget that. I'm going to grab him here tonight at the 405. What was the reasoning? Like, why do you like Henderson? Maybe were you just locked in on getting him there and you didn't want to wait to see if he'd slip to you at the 5th?
No, that's a fair question. I know I reached for him there, and it had a little bit more to do with a portfolio perspective. I have a lot of Hampton, who was sort of my other choice right there, who's probably a little bit closer to ADP. But he also has the week 12 bye with Achane. I'm like, man, I hate doing that to myself. Henderson, I knew I could have waited, and he might. There's a chance Hampton comes back to me. I didn't think so, but I like Harvey and Caleb Johnson right there coming back to me as well. With being fairly certain I was going to take another running back on the way back. Not super in love with the wide receivers after Henderson there on the board, and I thought I might get lucky waiting on Hurts at quarterback, but.
It's such as life. He did not make it back.
Yeah.
That's okay. So and then Derek Greer, our buddy on YouTube, already said with the Neighbors and JSN picks in the 1st and 3rd round, you have what he is dubbing the God combo. Neighbors and JSN. He's calling it the God combo. So congratulations to you there.
Nice.
I'll give you another strategy question. Shoot this at you, Jared. Scott Kobe chumming in. Do you guys have a plan from each part of the draft picks, like 1 through 4, picks 5 through 8, picks 9 through 12? Is it the same, or does it change based on your slot? And I'll let you give your thoughts on this because I have some as well.
Well, I approach every season a little bit differently from the standpoint of I try to get a really good read of the tea leaves of the landscape. Like I really, really feel running back is just a kind of different animal this year. Quarterback is kind of a new animal too in some ways. And so, that's going to – when I might have answered that question more directly a year ago, I would give maybe a different answer this year and so forth. So I start from kind of a bigger picture. But, you guys were talking about liking the back half of the drafts. I don't disagree. I don't know if I have a preference yet. I just know I don't really like waiting on running back from anywhere the way I usually do most seasons. I do think there's going to be a lot of good running backs to take later. If you wanted to go with say a 0 running back approach or anchor running back or something like that, but I don't know. I think you guys nailed it on the head a few minutes ago about there's going to be some veteran running backs that have to step up their game to keep their jobs. And I think that's going to be an interesting battle to witness. Like I think a lot of them are going to be able to step it up and keep their jobs. The Aaron Jones, the James Conner, et cetera. And, I'm just not sure how confident I really am in the rookies the way I have been in past years. The later round rookies, the day 3 rookies.
Right. Yeah. I think the other thing to keep in mind here too is, and I've been listening to a lot of podcasts and shows about draft strategy, and what we saw last year, Jared, and you probably witnessed this as well. I think a lot more teams went 0 RB last year, maybe more than we've ever seen. And then what happened at the end of the year? It was a bad year to go 0 RB because a lot of these running backs stayed healthy,
right.
and those backups didn't hit. And
Hey,
and
we're up, Buck.
and
I'm
Jared,
on the clock, but yeah.
I'll let you make your pick here too, and then I want to finish this thought. You just went Jamison Williams here in the last round at the 605. Scott Hoyt chiming in that he really loved that pick. We saw a lot of love on YouTube for this pick right here. It's a situation where Jared can go any which way here. He's got 3 running backs. He's got 3 receivers. He could make a strength stronger with a 4th one at either one of those picks. There are 6 quarterbacks. There's 6 quarterbacks off the board right now. There's 8 tight ends off the board. And that's what you decided to go with here, Jared. The Funky Freshies welcome in their top tight end, and that's Mark Andrews here. Can you take us through the thought process here of why Andrews was the pick, despite John Harbaugh talking up Isaiah Likely to the moon?
Sure.
Oh, there's Likely back.
Yeah, I mean, there's Likely, there's Flowers, there's even Bateman just signed a big contract, and he's capable of having big games too. And we know Derrick Henry is going to command a lot of touches. That offense is incredible. Mark Andrews is still, I think, in his physical prime. There's no reason why he's not going to be the top red zone target by a pretty wide margin. I think he was actually number 1 or 2 in the league last year in terms of converting red zone attempts, like something like 90% of them, like 11 out of 13 or something stupid like that. I love Mark Andrews. I won a bunch of money with him when he was a rookie. I've been drafting him for many years. I think he's going too late. But also I haven't got a tight end yet. And, that's if I'm going to wait on the position like I have, like I don't want to wait that long.
Right. And
the waters run deep for Mr. Jared Hines. I grabbed my tablet. I was going to write down your pick. And then I couldn't make it.
Oh, really?
I thought it was a tough pick. Would you have gone over Andrews if you could have got it?
I'm sorry. Ask me that one more time. Who might I have
taken? Smith was still on the board for you. Would you have gone him over Andrews?
No, he's a guy I probably have 0 shares of anywhere.
See, there you were. You were Andrews all the way, and you had to go tight end here. I think you had to.
Well, if Andrews had come off as well, I probably would have gone a different direction. Now that Juan Jennings is off the board, I'll tell you I would have taken him. He was probably next on the list.
To finish that thought that I was saying before, Jared, with 0 RB not working out for a lot of drafters last year, and 0 RB, quite frankly, only works when not the bulk or not a huge portion of the league is doing it. When a lot of the league is doing it, it's you don't get the value there that you normally get. And I wonder if that's going to push up running backs just in general this year. Running backs obviously get pushed up in the FFPC normally, but that could be another reason that they get pushed up even higher this year.
Yeah, it's true. It's when I talk about reading the landscape each year, I mean, it sort of starts with depth charts, but reading what the market thinks of things is also something. Like Jamison Williams again is another guy that like the drumbeat has like been really steady since last offseason, and he's done nothing but live up to those drumbeats since. Now they're talking about how he's taking another step forward. The drumbeat is still going, and he's going in the 6th round, and I'm like, that is a market error, or at least that's how I look at it anyway. So it's not just my reading of what are these teams doing, but what are the people out there doing as well. And to your point about running backs, we got cooked last year on 0 running back, but
Jared, you're
won with it.
You're on the clock right now. I'll let you make this last pick, and then we'll let you go and enjoy the rest of your draft here. So Andrews was added now, 3 running backs, 3 receivers. Take us through the thought process of who you're going to take at the 805 here.
Well, probably just best player available. The only other question is like, do I take a quarterback really?
Yeah.
But
go ahead.
See what I got here.
The 3 picks that went before Jared, Olave and Njoku and Baker Mayfield at the 802. Mayfield was the 7th quarterback drafted off the board. So only 7 are still out there. The question is, does he go quarterback here? Does he add depth here? And that is exactly what you've done,
yes.
my friend. Brian Robinson, a number 4 running back for you here.
Yeah, depth, best available. I don't see anything else standing out that's like, I don't know. I mean, there's a couple receivers I like. There's a couple other running backs I like, but tight end and quarterback, I feel like I can sort of still wait on a little bit.
Yeah, it's was those 1Z positions, right? You obviously can. A guy who, what were you in the FPC? 3rd place overall a few years back, right, Jared?
Yeah.
3rd place overall.
That was 2019, and like I said, it was Mark Andrews' rookie year.
Yep, that's right.
And it was when Darrell Waller broke out and had a gigantic season, and Lamar Jackson was MVP.
It was a great season for you. Who knows? Maybe you'll be duplicating it this year, 6 years later. You follow him on the X at @ship_chaser. He is Jared Hines. He's drafting from the 8 spot tonight. Was good enough not only to make 1, not only 2, but 3 picks for us live on air tonight. Jared, we appreciate you. Always good catching up. I'll have to get you back on one of the shows very soon because I think there's a lot to talk about for sure. Enjoy the rest of the draft. We'll talk to you we'll talk with you when we talk with you.
All right, thanks guys. Take care.
That is Jared Hines, ladies and gentlemen, drafting him at the 8 spot in the hottest room imaginable. Ferrell.
Bucky, go to Kevin Harris's team at number 11 because I believe what he did at quarterback with the way he's put together this team. I am in love with this team. Now they don't have enough running back, but maybe he's buying into what we talked about. A lot of running, and I'll be interested to see what he adds at running back. But I very, very much like his pick of Baker Mayfield. I think that Baker Mayfield is finally in a position where the culture and the team belongs completely to him. And Baker Mayfield has never worked for me, never. But this may be the year that I will draft him with the players that he has at his disposal on that roster and how much they love playing with him, the way they lead that team, and the division with which they play in.
Yes.
There's a lot to be said about this quarterback playing winning football. I think they're the favored to win that division, as they should be. I think they will roll through that division. It's a 12-13, maybe more win football team. I really like Harris waiting on quarterback and choosing Baker Mayfield there.
The team itself is now Mayfield's interesting, and I don't know how important stacking. Obviously, I don't think is as important in managed leagues rather than best ball, but there are some opportunities for him to add a couple of Buccaneers pass catchers here later on in the draft if he wants to stack him up with Mayfield. The team itself, look at all those targets, Ferrell, with McBride and St. Brown and Kamara. McLaurin, we'll see. McLaurin, I don't necessarily think is a target hog on that offense, but I could be wrong.
He does. Does he have to be a target hog when he catches 1,000 yards every year?
Well, yes, that's true.
But he did touchdown wise last year,
right? And I guess the thing I worry about McLaurin, and I've drafted him in a couple of spots, but the thing I worry about with him is, dude, and maybe we talked about this, maybe we didn't. He had 13 touchdown catches on 82 overall receptions last year, which is really, really efficient. And he's another year older. I think he's going to turn 30 this year. They're trying to get a contract done. I'm sure they will, with how Washington invested in, Laramie Tunsil and some of these other, Deebo Samuel. Like, they obviously want to take a step forward and win now. So maybe I guess he doesn't. You're right. He doesn't have to be a target hog there early in the 4th round, but I guess he really doesn't have to when you had another guy in Aaron Jones who catches a lot of passes. Travis Kelce, say what you will about him. That dude caught a lot of passes last year. Now, how does he coexist with both Worthy and Rice? I guess it remains to be seen, but bear in mind, that is Kevin Harris's number 2 tight end. Jawan Jennings is another guy, too, that is steaming up draft boards a little bit. Past Pearsall, normally, he goes one spot behind Pearsall tonight. You heard Jared Hines talking about how that would have been a great pick for his squad and Mayfield. So, yeah, I like Harris's team for sure. And Kevin Harris chiming in on YouTube right now saying that their dark horse is Kelce. They are dumbfounded why he is this low on the tight end list. He goes off
because the pros are knocking him down, and our beloved Mr. Terry doesn't like him. He's got his starting tight end and his flex tight end. That position. Look, in the concept of his team, the number 2 running back is the least important player on the team. And that's probably his weakest position. It will be interesting to see how he peppers running backs, in the double-digit rounds, because only one has to hit and one kind of has to hit, and then he's off and running.
Ferrell, there's an interesting discussion going on in the chat room right now, and it was, I think it was brought up by our man Zeus here. Jaden Reed versus Jamison Williams. Now, Jaden Reed, and I think he went off. Yeah, he went off in the 8th round tonight. Jaden Reed went off normally in the Big Gorilla, wide receiver 45 at the 904. So he gets pushed up a little bit tonight. Jamison Williams, wide receiver 27 at the 510. On average, you're looking at about 3.5 rounds separating those guys. Okay. Now, Jaden Reed, his stats last year: 55 catches, 850 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Jamison Williams' stats last year, if we look at what he was able to put up, 58 catches, 1,000 yards, and 7 touchdowns. So that's 1 more touchdown. That's 3 more catches, but 150 yards. Zeus is making the comparison between these two, saying that, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but that these two should be going closer together. And I think it was John Terry said there's no way he's taking Reed over Jamison Williams. I think the thing that concerns me when you talk about comparing Reed to Williams is, 1, they're used in very different ways in their offenses. 2, I think one of these teams between Detroit and Green Bay is significantly more prolific in the passing game than the other. And three, one of these offenses just added Matthew Golden and Savion Williams, where Detroit added Isaac Tisla, who I think is more of a project for 2025. Yeah. That's where I stand in on it. I totally, if you want to talk about Williams versus Reed, and you like both of them, well, you could try to get both of them. You shouldn't have to take one over the other. But I think there is still a significant, and Reed should have a bounce back year this year. I think I just drafted him yesterday or 2 days ago. So I think he's fine. But Jamison Williams, the upside of Williams, of what he could be for this offense. Monroe St. Brown coming off this knee surgery too. Maybe Williams factors in more to this offense than we're thinking. To me, he's more of a pick to win type guy here when you're going for $1 million than Jaden Reed.
Okay, I can buy that.
Let's see here. Steven Gergalos, Chris Olave, going to win people leagues this year. Ferrell, we were talking about the Saints offense before. Olave is the number 3 receiver by Jason Schoen here at the 804, going with Marvin Harrison, Jordan Addison, and then Chris Olave here too. Is the only reason he's being bumped down because of the concussions? Because we talked about, even if the offense is bad, Olave should still put up good numbers, even with Tyler Shook this season.
Number 1 wide receiver on the team with a rookie quarterback that's got to make it work. So yes, and Steven is right. This player, where he's being drafted, if you have Olave as your number 3 receiver, he's always been one of my favorites. He's working through some problems that they have down at that team. Let me tell you, all the New Orleans Saints bashers, who would you rather have playing quarterback? A rookie guy who can make all the throws and grow throughout the year, or a hodgepodge and rotation of quarterbacks where the tight end also gets to play quarterback? I hope we don't see as much of that this year. But Olave is quite the player. I really do. I really do appreciate the player.
Cooper Kupp goes right after that to Jason Schoen as well. So he's got 4 receivers in tow. The thing I wanted to bring up with the Saints, with all the injuries they had, Rashid Shaheed got hurt last year too, as well as Olave. Do you think Spencer Rattler got a fair shot, Ferrell?
No.
So then wouldn't it stand to reason that this is more of a competition than we're thinking between Shook and Rattler?
No.
It's still going to be Shook because of the draft capital?
Not so much the draft capital, but when you have Rattler was a 5th round pick, there's things to like about him. He has his share of detractors, and he is a good NFL backup quarterback where he is right now. This player, Tyler Shook, whatever his name is.
Tyler Shook, yeah.
He improved to the 40th draft pick. When he came here, He bet on himself. He came to Louisville instead of entering the draft. They told him if he entered the draft last year or the year prior, however we want to talk about it, he would have been an undrafted free agent. And he came, he bet on himself. He's older, he's already 25 years old. They're going to run him out there and see what they got. They think they like his maturity, they like his arm strength, and they like the way he processes the information. Now, if he shows up in the regular season, he's going to struggle, but he's not going to struggle necessarily like you're used to seeing some rookie quarterback struggle. So I don't think he is a one read and start running the ball or the kind of quarterback. I think he's going to give Olave time to get into the breaks, run the right routes. All of this offense is based on timing, and so that's what you get with this player. He's a heady player that understands the offense.
We talked about the Buccaneers earlier, the opportunity to stack for Kevin Harris, and lo and behold, Emeka Egbuka, the 10-02, pairs with Baker Mayfield nicely there. Mm-hmm. I'm starting to like Egbuka a little bit more.
You should.
And I think I'm starting to like Chris Godwin a little bit less, and Mike Evans too. I'm a little bit concerned with. I think
You've been that way on Evans since I didn't have gray hair. You've been that way on Evans for years. Every year, you're a little.
And every year he crushes it. Every year I'm wrong.
One of these years you're going to be right.
Yeah.
And he may just retire, and you can say, "Oh man, I really do miss him."
Yeah. With Egbuka too, I think he is a much more complementary player with Mike Evans. I think he's more of a duplication of skills guy with Chris Godwin. But remember, the Buccaneers did ink Godwin to that extension too. So whether he's healthy or not at the start of the season, Tampa does believe in him going forward. Something that we'll be watching. Something that we are watching right now. I think Derek Greer pointed this out. Loves the fade of the quarterback position for Robert Morelli's squad at 6. Well, lo and behold, Slappy Seconds, that is James Russell's team, does not have a quarterback. And the 85 Bears, drafting in the 12th spot tonight, are through 10 picks. They're halfway home. They have nary a quarterback as well, and they have to wait all the way till the 11-12 to make a quarterback selection, if they want to do it there, Ferrell. I'm actually kind of fine with that. Quarterbacks are falling tonight. We talked about it with Allen and Jackson and Daniels going in the 4th round. We could see more quarterbacks falling in and maybe waits until the 13-14 turn to get his quarterbacks there. But I think it's fine. I don't know if I would have taken Kyle Pitts at the 10-01. I'm kind of done with them at this point. I just every story I've told myself over the years, Ferrell, with this is going to be the year for Kyle Pitts. This is going to be
it's going to be his year.
I can't tell. The stories are falling on deaf ears for me. I'm really out on him at this point.
Well, and you definitely have history on your side, and with Pitts, I would say, what's going to be different? We all blame the use of Pitts on the offensive coordinator, so.
But I mean, that was just the latest excuse. There's always an excuse with this player. And in FFPC play, it's too important to gamble with a player that has proved you year on year on year that he can't deliver. And we've got some really interesting tight ends that play the game quickly. They came into the league and quickly developed as contributing players at that position. And that's what I think our drafters should be looking for. Yeah, Joe King could not agree with him more here. Superstars rarely need excuses. That is true.
Joe's on fire tonight. He said something earlier that hit home with me. Tough for Bucks to sustain last year's offense. So Joe knows football, so I'd like him to follow that up with why he thinks that.
I am. I'll tell you what. I don't think I'm going to have a whole lot of Bucky Irving on my teams this year, especially with how expensive he is. We talked about how this is I think Jared Hines said tonight that Bucky Irving is the highest he's seen him go, and officially this is the highest he's gone over the last 3 days in 24 drafts in the Big Gorilla. 201 tonight. He just keeps getting pushed up. I mean, he was great last year, and he was awesome last year. But think about what you had to invest in him to get him on your team last year, and now think about what you have to get on your team to invest to get him on your team this year. And I feel like that's a ceiling ADP for him right now, and that's why I'm kind of staying away from him. Regarding the Buccaneers duplicating what they did last year, I could still see it. The weapons that they have, where Jalen McMillan is your number 4, even if something happens to Evans or Godwin, you have a ready replacement coming in. I think Cade Otton is fine, and we're already singing the praises of Baker Mayfield. And so, I don't necessarily think Irving has to be as good as he was last year. He very well could be. I don't talk in absolutes. I know that's what you're supposed to do when you're talking about fantasy football. You have to say that this is how it's going to be. This is why I feel about this guy, and this is what's going to happen. It's not the way it works. Like, there's a variety of ways that this season could go. So I am off Bucky Irving at that price, but if he slips, something I could look at.
1,000 yards rushing, 8 touchdowns, 50-ish catches.
Yeah. I mean, I could see more than that too. I mean,
if you can see more than that, then why not draft him where he's being drafted?
Because I think the likelihood of that happening is much rarer compared to how I see the season going for him.
Scott Cole comes in with talking about Mike Evans being 46 years old. He's going to get me start talking about George Blanda in a minute.
Let's see here. What else do we want to get? The other thing I want to say with Joe King's Kyle Pitts comment, he's not a superstar. I think, like, even if you're off Pitts, or even if you're on Pitts, even if you like drafting him this year, I don't believe that anybody's going to call him a superstar. It's not who he is, and that's fine because he's being drafted as whatever it was, tight end 15 tonight, which is fine. We have, let's see here, Slappy Seconds. That is James Russell, who says he's disciplined as fudge. Skips quarterback again tonight to take Travis Etienne and to take Jaden Blue, the rookie running back for Dallas here. He is going to keep playing quarterback chicken. Robert Morelli said, I'm out on that, Holmes. He goes Caleb Williams in the 10th, Dak Prescott in the 11th. And that's what I'm talking about with this. Like, I love both of those players for fantasy this year. And you can give me 9 picks before that where I add a tight end, stack my running back, stack my receivers, and I can still get Williams and Prescott. I guess my biggest concern with that is I might start those guys on the wrong weeks, right?
Oh, yeah, that's dangerous.
But that's a good problem to have.
Hey, maybe he's looked at the home and away schedule, and he just knows he'll start each player.
Yes, he's going to stack them up.
What quarterback is Dak? I can't read the fine print, Balky.
Quarterback 11. Quarterback 11.
Highest paid player in the NFL is the 11th fantasy quarterback.
Yeah.
You can't follow the money in this game, Balky, if you want to win the money.
Yes, that is true.
Now, there's a player there's no player on this board that's more groomed to overperform his draft position than Dak Prescott. He could have years better than a lot of these
guys. And the fact that he gets both the 10th and the 11th quarterbacks off the board, back-to-back picks right in the middle, I think is interesting as well. What do you make of the likely pick here to Chris M at 11:07? He had Hawkinson in the 5th. He adds the rookie Colston Loveland in the 9th, and now he adds Likely in the 11th. Again, this is not best ball. He's going to have to pick. And I guess technically he could start all 3 of those guys in any given week if he wants to. But you think he pushed too hard? He cranked, to borrow a crack rock line, he cranked too much purple here and having 3 tight ends at the end of the 11th rounder. Can you get on board with that strategy?
I guess he's looking maybe to his right and sees a team over here. Well, no, everybody's got a tight end. Never mind. So I think he looks at it and says, if lightning strikes there, he's got a really great tool. He puts it with his quarterback, and he gets in a situation where he's not going to need a backup quarterback. So that could be his number 2 quarterback spot. And he just says, I'll roll the dice with Likely, with the Loveland being a questionable injury situation and probably a better fantasy player later than the year than early. I like what he's doing there. I can see that.
Yeah, I think when you look at it, the receivers are fine. The question to me is, like, am I pushing too much tight end here, getting my 3rd tight end before my 4th running back? And his running backs, obviously Barkley is awesome. But then
who's left on the board at tight end, Balky? Freiermuth obviously was. Who's left?
Yeah, so then you're looking at, let's see, who do we have here?
Our old friend Hunter Henry's probably sticking his head in there.
Brenton Strange, Henry, Ertz, Mason Taylor, Mike Gesicki, those guys are all out there.
He might be saying, I'll let these other guys live with those players as their second tight end. But, look, it's a tight end heavy draft. There's a lot of tight ends here going. So.
The concern I have would be the running backs there with Barkley, Montgomery, and Javonte Williams. However, based on our conversation with Jared Hines, I would contend that the upper echelon, the elite running backs, do not duplicate their health, speaking in a broad sense, in 2025 the way they did in 2024, which would make running back an easier position to get off the waiver wire or get later in your drafts. And maybe you can fill in the crack that way, and you get Hockenson, Loveland, and Likely, and you don't have to worry about tight ends. So there's something to be said for that.
His number 2 running back is either Williams, who does something with the job down in Dallas, or Montgomery, who's consistent point scorer. I can live with his team there. Now we'll see if he's preparing to draft now. Let's see if he's devoted to adding some other running backs that could come in. Boy, I believe there's a great receiver still available too.
We have
he's gone.
He's gone. Okay. We do have 58 receivers off the board right now, 20 tight ends. We are at the 12:06 right now for Chris. I'm waiting to see what he does here. And he does go with the running back. And I like this selection here in J.K. Dobbins here. This is after R.J. Harvey went at running back 20 at the 5:06. He's getting Dobbins 7 rounds later. So
you don't want to draft last year's teams, but if you were, what did you have to pay for Williams and Dobbins last year?
Nothing. I mean, they're Williams in the 10th and Dobbins in the 12th. That's fantastic. They're going
last year. What were they? 3 and 4?
Yeah, much higher. Much higher.
Much higher. Yeah.
Scott Kobe has a question for us here. Do you guys think Monty takes a step back this year with Gibbs? I'll answer that because I do have Montgomery on several teams already this year. If he takes a step back, I think it would be at the expense of a new offensive coordinator rather than personnel on the field with him. I think part of the reason that Gibbs and Montgomery have been so successful in Detroit has been the fact that they've had each other there. I think Gibbs being on the team makes Montgomery fresher in the fourth quarter. I have my kids, one of his baseball coaches is a huge Detroit Lions fan. And he said, if you watch those Lions games, they don't really unleash Gibbs until the second and third quarters. And then it's usually Montgomery is the first quarter guy that starts softening up the defense. And then he's the fourth quarter grinder. Detroit may not, I don't know how many games they won last year, Ferrell, 14 or 15 or whatever it was. I don't know if they win that many this year. I think the offense takes a step back, but I don't think it's a significant one. So I think Montgomery is going to be fine this year. I think Gibbs is really going to be good this year. A step back, yeah, perhaps, but it might be such a small step you don't even notice it. That's my take on Montgomery.
I think you can count on this player to get back to 200 carries. You could argue he took the step back last year with 10% less carries, and I don't know how much of that was injury related. I love this player, and I think he's great at this position in the draft.
Scott is also saying, too, asking Joe King, would you agree with Gibbs' finish to the year that Gibbs could take a step forward? Yes, he could, but he's already going so high, and he already had such an amazing season, especially his finish to last season, too. I don't know how much higher or how much better he could be. Now, the other thing, too, Jared Hines pointing this out, that Montgomery could be a league winner if Gibbs misses time. Well, flip that on its head. What if Montgomery misses time, and we see what happened with Gibbs at the end of last season, of the regular season, the fantasy season? We saw what happened there without Montgomery. He was otherworldly. So if that happens again, then obviously Gibbs, as weird as it is to say a guy going at 102 in the draft tonight, he could be a league winner this year as well, which is wild. Slappy Seconds has finally drafted their first quarterback. That is James Russell's team. He gets Drake May, the 13th quarterback, off the board at 12:11 tonight. And I got to tell you, I think he did it right. We'll see what he does here. He's on the clock at the 13:02. We'll see if he double dips and grabs back quarterbacks here.
He's going to double dip.
But, when you have a team with 4 running backs, 5 receivers, two tight ends, and then you can get Drake May in the 12th round. And honestly, he's probably looking at how the quarterbacks were going. I mean, we didn't see our first quarterback taken until the 403 tonight. He goes Brock Purdy here. Ferrell, I love that. May and Purdy with the rest of that team. He's doing it right.
I think I would have taken Goff and Purdy, but that's just me.
Well, the thing with Purdy, and this is just the Niners in general, I bumped them up a little bit because of how easy their schedule is this year. Goff and the Lions are playing that first place schedule since they finished first in the NFC North last year. So I think there's a lot to love about Purdy, and especially when Ayuk comes back too. You're gonna have Ayuk, Pearsall, Juwan Jennings, and George Kittle, and Christian McCaffrey against some really cupcake opponents. I do like that.
Who are these cupcakes, Balky?
Well, should I bring up the schedule? I'll bring up the schedule.
Yeah, let's take a look at that schedule.
Let's do
Accusing
the Niners
the
schedule.
49ers, the NFL, of laying the red carpet out for the 49ers.
All right, here we go. I have it right here.
Who are these cupcakes?
Okay. All right, so they're going to start the season in Seattle. Then they go to New Orleans. Then they get Arizona at home, Jacksonville at home. I think those are four really good matchups right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
They'll be favored in all those games. I agree.
They're at Los Angeles. They're at the Rams. Now, that's not going to be an easy one because the Rams defense is not bad.
They got to play them twice.
They do. They're at Tampa. I think Tampa's defense is nothing to write home about. The strength. Then they get Atlanta at home. Atlanta's big calling card is those two edge rushers that they drafted, those rookie edge rushers. I don't really foresee any big time problems that they're going to have with the Falcons at home. They go to Houston. They go to the Giants. Again,
road games are always tough in this league.
They are tough, but you have to play the road games. The Rams at home. We already talked about the Rams. Then they go to Arizona. They get the Panthers at home. Then they go to Cleveland. Then the bye week. Again, I think there's some soft matchups in there. After the bye week, the Titans at home. They go to Indianapolis. They get the Bears at home, and then they finish the season at home against Seattle. I think there are a lot of opportunities for McCaffrey and those pass catchers as well as Purdy to win a lot of weeks for you with that schedule.
So they play Tampa and they play the Rams.
Yep.
And that's the only projected division winners that they play during the season.
I don't see any other division winners on this.
Okay.
Who won the AFC South last year?
That would have been AFC South would have been won by
it Houston?
They all finished second. Yeah, Houston.
Well, they do go to Houston, so that'd be another division winner.
Yeah.
But again, it's a division winner in quotes, essentially here. Okay, let's get back to it here.
I thought you had them playing Tennessee Tech there for a minute. I didn't know.
Well, no, not Tennessee Tech. There are no Cupcake U games. It's all professional cupcakes here, which professional cupcakes might be a fantasy.
Yeah, I don't. Hey, you got to go to the draft next year, Balky, and back up all these things you're saying.
Yes, I will have to. Terrence Ferguson off the board as long as we're talking about tight ends here. Jared Hines takes Terrence Ferguson as his third tight end, coupled with Mark Andrews, Brenton Strange as well. Ferguson I like from a dynasty standpoint. Sean McVay doesn't seem like a guy that likes a lot of rookies on the field unless they're Puka Nacua. So I would go back to, hey, let's slow our roll here, player. But Hines already has two tight ends. That is a player, if Adams or Nacua were to miss time, maybe there's some upside there as well. I love the Brenton Strange pick too. And I think for the same reasons, if Thomas or Hunter were to miss time, and Strange is a second round pick. And I think a lot of people forget that too. Yeah. But Andrew, Strange, and Ferguson, I think that's a really solid tight end core that he's got there. I like the Fields pick at 908 as well.
Yeah. Is he coming in with another quarterback soon, you think?
Well, there's 17 of them off the board. Wow, Aaron Rodgers as how about that? The 85 Bears taking Aaron Rodgers as their first quarterback here at 12. And then they get CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud, that's a strong pick there too. I think the way that they're going here, we've got three quarterbacks in the last three picks. We are running out of options here.
We still got Trevor.
Yep, and there's still another not great quarterback, but there's another quarterback that's near and dear to my heart here that is still available. If you wanted to go,
hard to believe.
I do like the idea of having a high floor guy at quarterback to go with Justin Fields, who is maybe a lower floor but a high ceiling type guy. We'll see what Jared does his as he's on deck. But yeah, I do think quarterback is probably the right idea. Ferrell, we have the defenses starting to come off the board. 13th round, the Broncos go to Jason Schoen, and then the Texans go to Kevin Harris. When do you like to take your defenses in FFPC and like the Big Gorilla contest like this?
I really like to put my defense and my quarterback together. Sometimes I like to stack a defense kicker situation sometimes. So it just depends on who I'm targeting. Sometime wow, that was a surprise pick. Sometimes I go in with a target of a defense I like. Like last year, people were off Baltimore for some reason. They weren't a second tier defense, but they certainly weren't in the top 3 or 4 off the board. And I thought they were top 3 or 4 defense, and so I was very pleased to get them. So it's a little more strenuous of a decision when you're playing in Kentucky, but I don't play in Kentucky, so I love my play in the FFPC, and it's not a throwaway pick for me. I put some planning into it.
The team I want to talk about, we have not talked about him a whole lot tonight, is Cullen Hoffman's team from the 3-hole. Biff Tannen ends up waiting on tight end and quarterback here. He gets Janu Smith and Mike Gesicki so far with his tight ends. Kyle Murray and Justin Herbert, I'm fine with, normally I'm fine with waiting on quarterbacks, but especially the way they were falling tonight, I was definitely fine on waiting them. And I like Murray this year, and Herbert, I think, is a good steady Eddie guy. What do you make of the running backs and receivers on his squad? You look at the receivers. We talked about McConkey, obviously, but he gets Jamar Chase at 3, Mike Evans, Devonta Smith, Darnell Mooney, who I think is underrated. Hashtag maybe better, hashtag better in best ball, but still a significant player here, especially if London misses any time. And then the running backs, Kyron Williams, Amarian Hampton, Tyrone Tracy, and Ramondre Stevenson. This is an interesting hodgepodge, a Frankenstein team, if you will, of some good breakout young players and some players that have done it before. When you look at Cullen, who's on the clock right now, what do you make of his squad and how he's done from the 3-hole, Ferrell?
He knows what he's doing, and he's a good player, so it's very difficult to pick his to pick what he's doing apart. I'm not a Mooney fan. I like he flashes skill set. I probably would have, but when I look at the receivers that are drafted after him, there's some promise there. I really like the Raider Becht that went a round and a half later. I think what I'm going to do at that point is avoid Mooney and take a younger receiver because he sure has some fantastic receivers. I would have waited, maybe drafted another running back. But look, this guy knows what he's doing. He doesn't need me to advise him. And I tell you, I learned a lot just by watching him play and watching him draft. There's some curious picks, Balky, and there we go.
Hey, Jared Goff.
There we go. Now, when Balky, if you have time and if you are so inclined, and you probably have better ideas, but if you bring up Jared Goff and just play him on his home games, put him with Gibbs, just play him at home. When Detroit is home, certainly what you might call cupcakes, let's just call second division teams. When Goff is playing at home, his fantasy output is so impressive that it's almost like a no-brainer to start him. And that's this guy's third quarterback. That's fantastic.
You say fantastic. I think when you make the call of May and Purdy, I would have gone elsewhere. I don't think you need Goff at that point. I understand the love for Goff, but I do. Once you have made the decision that Purdy is your guy over Goff, I think you let Goff go somewhere else and you focus on another position.
I would have flipped him. I would have drafted Goff, then Purdy, and not May.
Well, yeah, Purdy. I think Purdy and Goff would have been fine too. I mean, I like May's breakout potential this year for sure. But I think I'm good with all three of those quarterbacks, just not all three of them on the same team. Jared Hines rostering 3 QBs in this format is suboptimal. Scott Hoyt agrees with me. Adam Hahn coming in 3 quarterbacks in a single quarterback league. Listen, if James Russell wants to weigh in, he's watching this on YouTube. He can post his thoughts there. He won't right now because he's on the clock in the 15th round.
Maybe he's saving those fab dollars to spend on running back if he needs them.
That could be it. Dylan Sampson is where he goes at running back here. Ferrell, I want to bring up just before we move on from Cullen Hoffman in his team at the 3 spot tonight. Kyron Williams goes at the 303. Jarquez to Cullen's team. Jarquez Hunter goes to Chris M at the 1406 tonight. People who have doubted Kyron Williams for the last couple of years have been really disappointed. Is Williams going to get it done? Is the juice worth the squeeze tonight? Running back 12 at the 303 for Kyron Williams.
Yes, Balky. And would you adjust our screen?
Yep. All right. Thank you.
But, yes, anybody who wants to start betting against Kyron Williams, they better have another really good player lined up. I don't argue with it if you can tell me you like another guy more, but don't tell me you don't like Kyron Williams.
He's fine. I haven't taken him a whole lot this year. I think I have him on maybe just one team, actually.
Mm-hmm.
No, I have him on two. And McVay seems to like to use that one running back exclusively. Now, the thing is, they invested in running back on day 2 last year, and they get Jarquez Hunter, who I believe was a day 3 pick this year, but day 3 pick in parentheses, or day 3 pick in quotes, because how deep the running back position was this year. And I know there's a lot of love among the dynasty bros, as it were, for Jarquez Hunter. I've taken him in a couple of dynasty leagues as well. So I guess I would say this. My nervousness or my caution with Kyron Williams this year is not markedly higher than it was in the previous 2 years, which maybe this is a false analogy, but that probably means Kyron Williams is just going to get it done again this year. And FFPC players are drafting him to get it done again this year. And Ferrell is drafting him like he's going to get it done again this year.
Yeah.
And maybe the addition of Devontae Adams actually makes him more valuable too, because you have 2 significant perimeter receivers, and one of them is not dust like Cooper Kupp was when he came back from injury last year. Maybe that actually makes this offense even more potent, Ferrell.
I think so too. And let's go back. Let's go to our team number 7. We said he could have a luxury of a third tight end and wait on a backup quarterback. He's waited on a backup quarterback, and he's got one that's proved it. I talked about Trevor Lawrence's struggles lately, but that could be a mid-career slump for Trevor Lawrence. He slumped with the whole organization. Now they're probably got a lot better focus on what they want to get done down in Jacksonville this year. Trevor Lawrence has done it before. If he can turn back the clock to 2022, I doubt if he's ever going to get a start over Lamar Jackson. But if something happens where Lamar misses time in the 15th round, you've got probably a pretty good quarterback to play here.
James Russell chiming in on YouTube. Didn't realize the YouTube mob was coming for me. And he does make a couple of good points, and I'll bring this up too. With Purdy and Goff, when he drafts both of those, he is now stacked Purdy and Kittle, and he has stacked Goff and Gibbs and Laporta. So there's something to be said for that. Again, I'd have to look at, and he said the same thing. You have to look at who they're playing in weeks 15, 16, 17. But there is something to be said for that. The Niners, who Ferrell has agreed with me, have an amazing schedule this year. I believe those are your exact words before, Ferrell.
Yeah, Tennessee Tech's not on.
Yeah, and Goff and Laporta and Gibbs, we know how potent that offense is. So there is something to be said for that, which brings us back to what Ferrell's original point was. Don't draft Drake May. Just take Goff. Just take Purdy. But he's going to have some options there. So good on you. Slappy seconds. That's James.
There's this commentary of the guys hating Goff, and that's okay. But okay, 4,600 yards, 37 touchdowns. We love Jamison Williams. We love Gibbs. We think Montgomery is a very, very solid pick. Some people really like the tight end. How do you like all those players if you don't like their quarterback? It's nonsense.
Again, I don't want to keep beating this into the ground. My thing was when you had May and you had Purdy, I would be done at quarterback.
Yeah.
Goff is fine. But is he the right pick at 14-11 for this team? Maybe. I would have gone a different direction. But James Russell's probably won a lot more than I have, so take it with a grain of salt. Okay, let's
Maybe
move on.
when he throws 50 touchdowns, he'll move up to a 9th round pick.
Yes, exactly. Ferrell, we have, let's see, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, another guy that's climbing up draft boards here. He goes at the 15-10, the 60th running back taken tonight by Penix Envy, which is Thomas O'Brien's team here. Krosky-Merritt is a player that we heard a little bit about. I shouldn't say a little bit about. We heard a decent amount about prior to the NFL draft. Then after he's selected, there were some JCM fans out there that pushed him up on dynasty draft boards, and now we're seeing him in redraft leagues. There's some spice here. There's some sexiness, and I think part of the reason is we kind of know what Brian Robinson is. We kind of know what Austin Eckler is. We don't know what Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt is. What do you make of this player, who I do believe could play all 3 downs for Washington? Will that happen? Probably not, at least not in 2025. But in a pinch, maybe he could. Is there something here with Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt?
This was the big head scratcher for me, because I didn't really know this player that well. The answer to the question is yes. I pulled him up on YouTube right now because I was trying to get to some of the highlights that I watched with him last year. Tremendous first step. So I watched his last game, and he got better throughout his SEC play in every game that I saw. So I was very happy with it.
Bruce Flash is still buying Jeremy McNichols as the 3rd running back you want.
I don't think that's true.
Okay.
I don't think that's what we're looking at there.
The pick. Oh, Woody Marks. That's who I wanted to ask you about. Woody Marks goes at the 1606 to Chris M here. Running back 64. Ferrell, when you look at what Houston invested into Woody Marks in the draft, and then yet still went out and signed Nick Chubb, is that something to be concerned with when you're looking for the backup? And Damian Pierce is still there as well. Joe Mixon always seems to produce every year, but he is another year older. We have to do our due diligence on who the guy behind the guy is in Houston. And Chubb, Marks, and Pierce have created a muddy water there. Or is it clearer for you?
Nothing is clear for me what's going on in Houston, but they do a good job of putting all their players in the mix at every position. Have you noticed that? Mm-hmm. And that makes it very, very difficult on the fantasy player unless you're going with Nico Collins, and that's the Texan I love, and that's where I would hang my hat if I'm in Texas.
I noticed there's a conversation going on about Jordan Mason versus Aaron Jones in this draft tonight. Aaron Jones ends up going as running back 24, 5'11" to Kevin Harris's squad. Jordan Mason doesn't go until the 10th round, 10:03. He goes to Thomas O'Brien's Penix Envy. Ferrell, I like Aaron Jones. I've always been an Aaron Jones fan, and I know they extended him. But I also know what Minnesota did to give up draft capital to Jordan Mason and then ink him to an extension as well. I think Jones should be going in front of Mason. I don't know if he should be going like 5-6 rounds ahead of Mason. I think those guys should be going closer together. Somebody said it. I'm sorry. That they love the Mason pick in the 10th round. Ferrell, do you like the Mason pick for O'Brien at the 10:03 tonight?
I really love that player. I always have. I'm not so sure how he can contribute in fantasy points based on the other player, the other running back, and the situation of what we're going to see coming out of that team. So for that reason, I'm probably passing on him there.
I was listening to, I think it was JJ Zachariason was talking about Jalen Knoll the other day. And I could be wrong. Maybe it's Peter Overzet. I am the worst person to attribute stuff to because I hear it and I hear the argument and it makes sense to me and I try to regurgitate it and I do a better job of regurgitating it rather than remembering who actually had the original thoughts. And my apologies on this. But Jalen Knoll is a player who goes 1607, wide receiver 68 to Robert Morelli's football nerd tonight. And the contention with that is there could be a nice little carving on that offense for Jalen Noel, not only to start off the season, but maybe as the season goes on, if there is an injury to Nico Collins, or if there is an injury to Jaden Higgins, who I think a lot of people compare together as not necessarily complementary players, but players with very identical skill sets in Higgins and Collins. And then you have this Noel guy who kind of fits that Tank Dell role. And yeah, he's a rookie, and yeah, he's going late. But Ferrell, I could tell myself a story where I would love to have Noel as my number 6 receiver, my number 7 receiver. He's number 6 for Robert Morelli tonight, and I'm starting to like him there.
There's reason to, especially if you believe in the quarterback, especially if you like the team. I think I could do. I think there's guys I would like better, and maybe at this point in the draft, I'm going to go to some of these younger running backs. We just talked about Krosky Merritt. He's the kind of player that, from Montgomery, Alabama, that the SEC wouldn't pay attention to. So you talk to all those, you talk to all of them. He portaled out and went on out to play in the West Coast, and I really like that player. And it's a situation, I think, with these running backs of discovery. The more you look at them, the more you'll see NFL skill elements that are going to take the job away. Who's the back that we're talking about in Washington? The backup running back that
Corey Krosky Merritt.
No, the veteran.
Austin Eckler.
No, the
Jeremy
backup.
McNichols.
Thank you.
Sorry.
McNichols is a good player. McNichols, I think, is starts on all aspects of special teams, and I think that's where his largest contribution to the football team will be.
So I'll bring this up. Zeus is pointing out Noel could just be better than Higgins like he was in college, to bring it back to the Jalen Noel discussion. There's a non-zero chance of that as well. I could definitely see that happening. But, bear in mind the Texans did draft Higgins first, and they gave him guaranteed money. Ferrell, when are these second-round picks going to start signing? It's insane how many unsigned second-round picks we have in the NFL right now.
Yes. And I don't know why we're having that.
Well,
issue.
it's because of the Browns and the Texans. The only two second-round picks that have been signed got the guaranteed money, and now everybody wants the contract.
Maybe so. Copycat negotiation is never my style, so I don't know. Just because one other guy did it is just. You from an agent standpoint, I think you have to believe in the numbers, and you have to trust the organization to some point and come to that meeting of the minds. It is not beneficial for rookie players to miss this much time because they miss out on a lot of things that stick to them throughout the season. It's hard to get started sometimes when they're not in mesh, in sync rather with the culture. But it's also the thing is like when they're not there, what are they doing? Because if it's not football, and training camp's not as hard as it used to be, but rookies need to be there.
Harold Fannin is a fun pick. Maybe not a good one, but fun. That is what Zeus is saying. I totally agree with that. Fun pick. And listen, it doesn't have to be good in the 18th round. It's just have fun with it.
But that's a good ball player. That's a really good ball player.
And he's in Cleveland. He's behind Njoku right now, but Njoku is no stranger to the trainer's table. And I'll point this out too. 2 really good games that Fannin had last year. Well, he had more than 2 good games, but the 2 games that stood out to me is when he crushed Penn State and when he crushed who's the other one? Was that Oregon? It was another big time college football program that he put up big numbers against. So I like Fannin there in the 18th round. Ferrell, let me tell you a story about the 1706 pick tonight. Speaking of tight ends, Theo Johnson, tight end 30. I did a show with Alan Soslowski from RotoWire last Friday morning, and Theo Johnson was one of my dynasty sleepers, but I think he's a redraft sleeper this year. And I go back to the Giants. I don't know who their second target is, their secondary pass catching target. We already know their primary is Neighbors. And then as a second, is it Wan'Dale Robinson? Maybe. Is it Jalen Hyatt? I don't know. Darius Slayton? Okay, maybe. But nobody's a slam dunk number 2 guy there. Why not Theo Johnson as the number 2 pass catcher? Super athletic guy, was dinged up a little bit last year, comes in healthy this season. I was all ready to make him my number 3 pick, or my number 3 tight end pick in the KFFSC Run to Daylight Best Ball I was doing last night. And lo and behold, Steven Hugalos takes him 1 pick before I could draft him. Was not thrilled with it, but I am thrilled for Theo Johnson in the 17th round for one Robert Morelli in tonight's draft.
Yeah, and why not? The tremendous athletic skills, a huge catch radius, a big, specially gifted tight end that just did not get off to the start. And, you know, when you think about Neighbors having the kind of year he had with the quarterbacks of the New York Giants, it was Neighbors or nothing in that offense. You know, you had a lot of contributing receivers, but I agree with you. Someone has to step up and be a consistent second option, and it could be at that tight end position.
I want to talk about – we have not talked enough about this team tonight. This is the 2024 FFPC Joe. Sean Green, along with Michael Serpico and April Balasquita, drafting Demario Douglas here at the 1809, wide receiver 77. Just drafted Demario Douglas in a KFFSC league. And I know there's some pretty positive reports about Demario Douglas catching a lot of passes, looking like a baller in mandatory minicamp. And yeah, I know it's minicamp. But I'm intrigued, I should say, not loving, but I'm intrigued with Douglas and his role on this team with Diggs on the perimeter and a breakout quarterback in Drake May this year. I think that is a really good pick in the 18th round tonight for Douglas for the Green Serpico Balasquita trio. I love it, Ferrell.
Yeah, and why not? Now, you know, when we get Terp on the show with us, we won't get much love for Demario Douglas. But Demario Douglas is a small body pass catcher. They can run with the ball after he catches it. And he's worked through the roughest that New England has to offer. And things are looking better there. So I think the prospects of the team are consistently in parallel with the prospects of Douglas.
And that is the number, what was that? 8 receiver for that trio for Hale, tonight to get Demario Douglas there. Ferrell, let's see, where do I want to go next here? I don't want to talk about I'll bring this up, and I should probably wait until this guy's taken, but maybe he won't get taken tonight and we don't get to talk about it. So I'll talk about it right now. So number one, what I'm going to do, I'm going to reach behind me here and I'm going to put on the John Terry Raiders chain because we got to talk some Raiders football right now. Thank you to John Terry for picking that up. You mentioned Jack Besh earlier, wide receiver 58 at the 12:03 tonight to the Penix NV team. That's Thomas O'Brien. What do you make of him playing mostly in second team in minicamp behind Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker, and is it Deontay Thornton? I think his name is. Who was a day 3 pick, who's playing ahead of him. Is this something we need to be paying attention to?
Well, there's certainly not 37 touchdown passes coming out of the Raiders this year. We expect them to be improved. Beck brings skill set of good size. He might be another Alec Pierce player that looks good whenever they throw him the ball, but they don't throw him the ball enough. We're dealing another one of those unproven and to this point bad offenses. And so we're asking this bad offense to give us a first-round running back and a first-round tight end. And really, I think that's all we need to ask the Raiders to give us in fantasy football this year. I happen to like Beck. The jury's still out on Thornton, but Jacoby Myers would be my third Raider, and then I'm pretty much going to shut down in my love of the Raiders after those 3 picks. So my answer to you is I'm not going to waste much time on those players, but in the last 3 rounds, just players that I like, and not determined where they are ending up playing, I may take a shot at them, and that's what Beck would be for me.
We have not broken down Ali Yousef's team here tonight from the 5 spot a whole
Why are
lot.
we picking on that team? It's just stuck in the middle, and we're not looking at it.
Yeah, we're not. But I do want to bring up his tight end situation. Now, he added Cade Otton in the 17th, which is fine. But I want to bring up the 9-10 picks for him. That's when he addressed tight end. He skipped tight end for the first 8 rounds and then goes back-to-back with Kincaid and Ferguson. Ferrell in a vacuum, which one of those guys between Kincaid and Ferguson do you like better this season in fantasy?
Well, I like both of them for different reasons. I really the one that improves the most this year, I think, is Ferguson, because Ferguson's coming off a bad injury season where he caught no touchdowns. He still got in the neighborhood of about 60 balls. Kincaid, in a very good offense that we expected more out of, and I expect more from him this year. But I think this drafter will end up starting Ferguson more. This time last year, a lot of people were calling Cade Otton, Cade Rotten. He ended up putting up a very nice stat line, and his stat line is competitive with the draft capital that you spent on Kincaid and Ferguson. And I think he can join that group of players that the tight ends that we expect more from this year. You got stats on Otton going down the stretch, Balky. There's Otton put together a string of very, very good games. Is all. And I think he started poorly, perhaps, and then came on later in the year, something like that.
Well, here's what happened with Cade Otton last year, Ferrell. I'm going to start in. When am I going to start here? Well, I'll just do this.
Did he do well against the Cupcakes? Did he have that going for him?
Yeah, he had some good games against some tough ones too.
Yeah.
They lost 26-7 against that vaunted Broncos defense.
Yes.
He had 7 for 47 that game.
Yeah.
Follows it up with 6 for 52. And then here's where you notice the big spike for Otton. It started October 21st last year. 8 for 100, 9 for 81 and 2 touchdowns, 8 for 77 and a touchdown. Now, do you know what happened in those 3 games in the middle of the season when Otton's numbers spiked way up?
Godwin was gone. Evans was gone. What was happening?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Godwin for sure. But then when Evans came back, Godwin, remember, never came back.
Yeah.
But when Evans came back, here's what he did: 5 for 35, 1 for 30, 4 for 20, 3 for 70, and then he ended with a 2 for 24 clunker. So, then he had 2 for 32 the final week of the season. I apologize. No, that was the postseason. So, okay, whatever. But my point is, with Otton, yes, I think he's capable. But it took an Evans injury for him to go really
have huge numbers.
So, but again, we're talking about the 17th round, contingent upside with Otton. But I think that could be muted a little bit this year because you have Egbuka there now too. So even if Evans were to go down, you need 2 of those guys to go down now. And there's still Jalen McMillan there too. Don't forget about him. All right. Anyway, we can move on here and talk about Trevor Etienne going in the 20th round, Ferrell to Jason Schoen. I think it's interesting because they have Rico Dowdle there, and they're both backing up Chuba Hubbard. Etienne and Dowdle are both backing up Hubbard. I'm excited for the Panthers offense to take a step forward this year. And as a result, I think the guy behind the guy has value there. Dowdle, it's not like he broke the bank for the contract that they signed him to, but Etienne didn't invest heavy draft capital in him either. Are you team Dowdle or team Etienne for the backup Panthers running back that you want?
Ooh, really?
Yeah.
I have not joined a team there. And that's not good contribution for this show. But
well, I mean, if they're staying away, that's still
staying away is one thing, but you got to have a reason to stay away, and you just can't say it's because of the Carolina Panthers. But that's my June answer. But I'm going to try to figure out a better answer, and I couldn't even come up with a logical answer because I just see that a drafter ended up with DeAndre Hopkins in the 20th round.
Yeah.
That's fantasy football playing right there, buddy.
Robert Morelli, congratulations to you on that. I believe it was the great poet Geddy Lee, Ferrell, that said, "If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice." Right. So that's something to be said with the Panthers running back situation. Listen, it's not. I don't envision that being a league-winning potential situation there this year. But could it help you out for a week or two? Yes. And it definitely is worthwhile in the 20th round to grab ETN. Where did Dowdle go tonight? Oh, Dowdle went in the 14th round to Ali Yusefel. So there you go with that with the Carolina Panthers. There was one. Oh yeah, Scott Colby wants to know. Ferrell, as we'll wrap up our backup Panthers running back situation. Yes, the 20th round. Do you guys think Dowdle could get cut in preseason? I don't know if there's any guaranteed money there. I don't think that there's a lot. If there is, so yeah, I think it's entirely possible. I just don't. Behind him, it's that Raheem Blackshear guy, right?
Now that's a player I really like. Let me find the guy that I really like. Blackshear, that's my guy.
Well, Blackshear, the other thing with him is I think he's really good on special teams too.
Yeah, he's a great kick returner.
And
I think he could go in the slot and catch some passes. He's a great NFL player. None of these guys are going to help in this fast.
Well, but that's the point here is like if you're probably not keeping 4 running backs if you're Carolina. You're keeping Hubbard. You just invested into ETN. If Blackshear is that good on special teams, maybe Dowdle is the odd man out.
Well, you got to remember there's an injured reserve for players that sometimes aren't injured, and there is also a 16-man practice squad.
That's true. Very true.
And you can pay the practice squad players the full boat if you want.
Yes, you can. Absolutely. That is going to wrap up our show tonight. We have 20 rounds, 12 teams, 240 picks done. So congratulations to everybody who was a part of this draft tonight. Made it a lot of fun for us. And thanks to Jared Hines for hopping aboard as well. Ferrell, I want to thank you, the FFPC, Rob, and Bryce. Of course, I want to remind everybody that Ferrell and I will be back here. We will be back on Friday, June 27th. So we'll get back. No show this Friday. This is your High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour this week. But we'll be back Friday. We're going to talk with one of the FFPC Joes next Friday, Ferrell, in the form of one Jason Camp, who is an 11-time FFPC League winner. Very excited to talk with him. That'll be our next show Friday, June 27th. So thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. Always fun to talk with you whenever. It is no longer, well, now it's about to be a desert of desolation because we can't do a show for the next couple of weeks.
Hats off to the crowd and the chat tonight. It just it's wonderful here in the middle of June to see, guys that are so knowledgeable, so deep into understanding what they want to do. It just makes me want to get on that plane and fly to Vegas tonight and wait for everybody to get there. But I got stuff to do between now and then.
Yes, we all do. I will let you get a start on some of that stuff right now, Ferrell. I will talk with you next Friday live on the HSFF.
Hey, thanks, Scott wants a certain sign-off.
Oh, hold on. Where is it? Oh, no. Scott, you're going to get a form of that, just not quite yet. And it's not the exact same thing, but you will get a form of that sign up for sure. Ferrell, be good, man. Talk with you soon. That is Ferrell Elliott, the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, hanging out with me on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour tonight. Like I said, Jason Camp will be our guest next Friday. Rotoviz High Stakes Lowdown. People have been saying, Bulky, where's the June episode? Stuff happened the last couple of weeks, so we couldn't get the June episode out when we wanted to. It will come out tomorrow, 10 p.m. right here on this FFPC YouTube channel. 5-time league winner and 2025 FFPC Pros versus Joe's drafter, Billy Van Ormer, going to join me on the Rotoviz High Stakes Lowdown at 10 o'clock tomorrow. That's going to be a lot of fun. And then we'll have Wednesday night. I won't be on, but Aiden LaCory, Dave Tripoli will have live I think it's Big Gorilla. I should check that before I say. I think it's live Big Gorilla draft coverage. So if you like the Big Gorilla draft coverage you got tonight, you're going to get some more of it. Yep, Big Gorilla draft coverage. Aiden LaCory, Dave Tripoli, and special guest, Fantasy Point Zone Scott Barrett is going to hang out with those guys and give the live play-by-play. If you want to sign up for that league, I believe there are still spots open. I'm going to verify that right now and just make sure I'm not talking out of my rear end. That Wednesday there are spots open. Yes, only 5 left. So hustle in and get in there now if you can. The Thursday night Insider Access show will also be live on FFPC YouTube. Rotoballers Corbin Young will join me for 2 full hours. So You get live draft coverage tonight. You get Billy Van Ormer tomorrow. You get more live draft coverage on Wednesday. And then Corbin Young from Rotoball are hanging out to talk a little fantasy football with the FFPC for 2 full hours Thursday night. Going to be a lot of fun. Big Gorilla tournament is going on right now. $1 million grand prize. 7 Bananas promo is live. If you keep getting that 7 pick multiple times in a row, we're going to reward you with free best ball, main event, high society teams, and of course a free jungle safari if you get it 5 times in a row. FFPC main event has slow drafts going on, live events going on the weekends as well. Excuse me, live drafts going on. We're not quite to Paris Casino yet in Las Vegas, but you can draft FFPC main event live teams there as well, online right now. And then best ball and Superflex best ball tournaments available at myffpc.com. Dynasty startups also available at myffpc.com. 2,000 plus leagues. None have folded in 15 years. Remember to like this video, subscribe to this video, comment or subscribe to the channel, I should say, comment on it, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live, which will be tomorrow, Tuesday, with Bill Van Ormer on the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown. For Ferrell Elliott, I'm Eric Balkman. This has been the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. Your week officially starts now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com. It was broadcast live and was watched around the world. Balky and Ferrell will be back next week with more analysis, more interviews, and more advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again next week.
I don't know if I did it, so I'll just mention it right now. RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown, 10 p.m. Eastern. All these times are Eastern. 10 p.m. tomorrow. That's Tuesday. Wednesday night, the live draft coverage with LaCorey, Terpoli, and Barrett will start at 9 p.m. Eastern time. And then Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern time for the FFPC Insider Access show. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Really appreciate you guys tuning in and being really vocal in the chat. Made for a fun conversation. Made to just enhance the draft. I mean, we love watching drafts and we love talking about it. So thanks so much for making my night. Appreciate each and every one of you as well. And we will talk with you again tomorrow night on the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown.